All right, here we go. It's post-election time. Unfortunately, Donald Trump is the president-elect, the 47th president-elect of the United States. One could say, how could this country do this again? I've heard it all. I've heard policies. I've heard economics. I'm not feeling it, but what can I do, right? What can I do? I'll say this. I'm going to continue to show love and show love some more. That's what I'm going to do, folks. It's just the best way to handle things. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up, breaking through glass ceilings, we're going to give kudos to Kamala Harris for an incredible job with limitations on what she did. Then we got to talk about Micah Parsons. What the hell is his problem? But yeah, should athletes have podcasts? All that and more on this episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings.
I'm excited to talk more about my background.
Also worked in so many places of media, which you will find out more. Two friends who like wrestling that talk about wrestling. To now, let's start a podcast. And
grassroots style, the way me and Brian have done it. Every opportunity is an opportunity. Kind of makes me want to step my game up a little bit more just because the space is so oversaturated. Anyone can start a podcast. I live in New York City, so there's, opportunity everywhere in New York. Like, everyone's doing something. You go to a bar for happy hour, the bartender has a business.
And you apply that same strategy to network. You being very intentional. Find your why. What's the reason? Then do it.
Podcasting allowed me to break out of my comfort zone, to break out of my shell. This is 6HM Productions.
I just want to remind you that you can save 10% on your order with Symphony of Balloons, a luxury balloon company that also offers a 360 camera. Just simply mention you heard about them on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings with Uncomfortable Conversations. I am your host, Brian H. Waters. Now, the show, of course, brought to you by B. Waters Productions and Six Heart Media Production, a production company where you can learn how to do your best at your best, no matter the limitations. I just made that up. I'll see if that's approved. But, ladies and gentlemen, I talked about Donald Trump in the opener, and that's all I got to say about that. I do want to give kudos to Vice President Kamala Harris, who was, I thought, an incredible candidate. I love how she used non-traditional media. Of course, Donald Trump had to follow and do the same thing. But, she did a lot of different podcasts. We talked about that right on here. Shout out to her, different type of candidate. You know what I mean? She talked about non-traditions, like, what's the right family, right? Being a stepmom and how she was able to help and talk with her stepkids and build that relationship. She talked about where everything fell short. I'm not a politics person. I look at moralities and I look at, okay, well, does this make sense? I look at the common sense thing, and my common sense tells me kudos to Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. For all those who want to criticize her for drinking a glass of wine, please shut the hell up. Why wouldn't she drink a glass of wine? And that's the thing. Everybody is so critical on women. No matter what women do, they're so critical, right? I watched the Meg Thee Stallion documentary, and I was sitting there watching, and I know a lot of guys who don't like her. And everybody seemed to really turn and throw all their hate at her after the Tory Lanez incident. They talked about the fact that she lied to the police, that she admitted to, and the explanation she gave still wasn't good enough. A black woman says she didn't want to tell on a black man because she feared for that black man's life, even though he tried to take hers. That happens. That happens. And it was so sad because it felt like I saw all these things, all that, this, and all calling her all out of her name. And it was ridiculous. You know what I mean? And when I look at Meg Thee Stallion, she's very open. She said, look, everybody's a freak, everybody hoes. And that's what I said. When women do things, it's a problem. When men do things, it's pat on the back. Now, I am a father of a boy and a girl. Do I want them using their bodies all the time and sleeping around XYZ? No. But the same way I would be hard on my daughter, the same way I would be hard on my son. That's how my parents was, They have that freedom. Now, Meg Thee Stallion chooses, that's what she want to do. She want to go out there, shake her ass. We don't know who she's sleeping with, who she's not. That's the music, right? Because here's the thing. Y'all judge her based on the music she said. But when a man raps about fucking or shooting, oh, but that's just the music. He ain't really about that life. See the double standard there? That's the part people don't want to admit to. That's the part that's irritating. So, everybody always want to criticize women, man. And it's ridiculous. I think I was about 20 where I had a light bulb. Because you're taught this. This is what's ingrained in us when we're children, right? Especially if you grew up in the church. Because if there's the boy who's dating all the girls, oh, he the player of the church. But if it's the girl that's dating all the guys in the church, oh, she fast. She a hoe. That's what y'all like to say. So these things are rooted in church and then taken into the world. So, here to put a stop to it. Here to put a stop to it. I really want to get into this whole thing about Micah Parsons, folks. Micah Parsons is the linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. And one of the things he said during a post-game interview, they asked him about the season, salvaging the season. And he said, he felt bad because guys who were on that last leg, or I shouldn't say last leg, on that could be their last run. Guys like an all-pro, future Hall of Famer, Zach Martin. Feeling bad for him because they want to play hard. And he said, the coach, it's not so much about him. He gonna find another job or whatever. But it's people that work harder than the coach do any day of the week or something like that. And I'm like, whoa. So, of course, when they asked to clarify it, you know what he said. Check on my podcast. Now, I'm gonna be careful because Micah Parsons could be a future Raven and I could be rooting for him. And if I was a Cowboy fan the way I was, he would be rooting for him. But my issue isn't such much with Micah Parsons. My issue is a lot with the new media, right? Now, you have a guy like Draymond Green who feels like he's the leader. He would even say J.J. Redick was the leader. But you got the new media, and they say the new media is here, right? The new media being podcasters. I look at the new media as people who did not study the craft, people who did not get the basics. That's the way I take new media. Now, there are some people who have, right? There are a lot of podcasters out there like myself who have put the time, blood, sweat, and tears in the classroom, in the internships. But then there's also people who go on Amazon and get the Amazon microphones, or they think they loud. And yes, are those some of the people that's getting some of the endorsements? Yes. Do it sound like I'm hating? It may sound like it. My thing is still learn the craft. You know what I mean? And with these athletes, if anybody gives a hot quote, anybody shows any of emotion on the court, they're giving them a podcast. You got these brands on, let's give them a podcast. And what's going to happen in the future, right? Pay attention. You're going to have these athletes with these podcasts. Then it's going to become a restriction. It's going to be in contracts. No podcasts. You imagine Bill Belichick was still coaching? Do you think any New England Patriot will have a podcast? Doubt it. I doubt it. Because now, here's the part that people don't see who don't understand the business. These podcasts become PR nightmares. Because now that public relations person got to pay attention to everything that's being said on that podcast. Make sure nothing comes out crazy. Make sure nothing can come back to the team. Then there's the whole thing with tampering. So, yeah, now everybody's like, okay, yeah, your favorite athlete has a podcast while being active, but you never know what could happen. And, there's people who saying, well, what about the streamers? right? There are athletes who stream on video games. Well, guess what? That's just like a podcast in a sense. And I get it. Everybody trying to get the bag, but you have to think about, again, think about that public relations person. Think about what could be said. And there was a thing where we didn't have access to athletes the way we do now. See, prior to social media, and even in the earlier days of social media, it was kind of limited, right? There was just Twitter. Some people had Facebook fan pages and whatnot, but it was just Twitter. Now there's Facebook, Twitter, or I should say X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and then a whole plethora of other ones, right? So now people can get in contact. And then what do athletes do as soon as they have a bad game? They start scrolling. Then when they start scrolling, you know, they want to sit back and they want to respond. You know, Eddie Jackson had a horrible game against the Cleveland Browns, and he was responding in DMs. That's the part people don't see. These are the issues. So when you have somebody like a Micah Parsons who come on there and he's just spewing whatever, then now this is a public relations nightmare. And a lot of these athletes aren't going to be careful. They're going to talk themselves out of bigger money. Because if I'm a owner of a team or I'm a general manager, or if I'm the public relations person, I'm getting with those people. Say, hold on, you know, you're making my job harder. I want more money, or we shouldn't pay him X amount of money. He gonna get it on his podcast. You know, now this is causing us more of a headache. And a lot of times these people aren't even articulate, but that's a whole different story. They don't get their thoughts out properly. You know, I'm not talking about the way they talk, but they don't get their, and then they have to double back. So that's my issue. I do think that athletes shouldn't have podcasts while they're active, at least not during the season. Not so much you need to focus, because there's also a lot of time that goes into this. See, y'all see this. Y'all see the record. Y'all see the finished product, I should say. Nobody thinks about the research. Nobody thinks about the mental preparation. It's not just as easy as sitting in front of the camera and talking. Sure, even if you have a whole team, right? Let's say all I got to do is sit down and talk. I still got to mentally prepare what I am going to say. I can't just get up there and just start chatting, because who wants to hear that? You know, I got to think about, how can I say this that works? It's kind of like, it goes back to the reason why they say billionaires dress the same. That's something less they have to think about, right? So you might remember Steve Jobs, always in black shirt, khakis, or whatever, right? I've seen billionaires come to Johns Hopkins, black t-shirt. That's less what they got to think. They don't have to think about what they wear. That mind can go into something else. And that's the reason why people always say, well, why aren't these athletes taking that mindset and putting it into their craft, not their content? Not a lot, you know. Tom Brady in the news. Congratulations to Gisele. I ain't got a dog in the fight. Congratulations to Gisele. She's expecting another child. Tom Brady reportedly was stunned. I guess he didn't think it was that serious. Didn't think they was going to go all the way, have a baby. But here we are, you know, and there's all these reports like, oh, well, Tom Brady wasn't sexually active during the season. First of all, how you have a wife and get away with that? But I guess when you're Tom Brady. But I guess what they say, you know, a man can have everything, but if he doesn't have his soul, doesn't have his family, what good is it, right? You know, it's prices to pay to be that great. You look at guys like Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Tom Brady on the list. You know, it's the reason why Derek Jeter said that he waited until after his career before he got married. Everybody's not LeBron James. Everybody sees LeBron James as this like, wow. And you know, for a lot of cases, he is the epitome of like, how does this work? You know, LeBron James is still playing. Black man, successful, not a scandal. He has a wife. She's right there. She's supporting, and he'll be the first to admit he wouldn't be able to do this without her. She even said on Starting Five, like, he's always around her. They have a genuine love for what can be seen, and I love to see it. I love to see it, man. But everybody can't be that way, you know. That's why you should never say, "I wish I was XYZ." You know, people out there, maybe a couple people, not a lot of people, a couple people out there say, "Man, I wish I was Brian H. Woods." No, the hell you don't. Life is not that easy. Trust me when I tell you, but I've been blessed. But nobody else can walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Not even twins. Two of my favorite cousins are twins, right? They can't walk a mile in the other one's shoes. They two different people. So, and things you think you can handle, you can't because you don't know what it took to get there. Sure, I could look at some of my friends and say, man, they got all the success in the world. They got the big house, the big cars, the, beautiful wife, the beautiful children, the healthy kids, the healthy life. I don't know what it took to get there. Everybody's journey is different. Embrace your own. That's a little food for thought. I want to give a huge shout out. Congrats to my boy, my bro, Kazim Famiude, officially announced as one of the co-hosts for 7 p.m. Brooklyn with Carmelo Anthony. Now, Kaz, I work with him. I have the honor and pleasure of working with him every Monday and Thursday on the Masked Man Show. And, he's come on Ring of Wrestling Worldwide. Obviously, we done went to WrestleMania and SummerSlams together. That's my dog. But I'm happy to see him winning, and he's doing this with one of my favorite basketball players of all time, and him and Rudy Gay. And Rudy Gay was somebody who, when I was in high school, Rudy Gay was a senior. So I tweeted, I was like, wow, Baltimore meets New York. So it's amazing. It's amazing to see. Before I get out of here, I want to bring back up the Dallas Cowboys because I saw this quote. Stephen A. Smith said that the Cowboys should tank for Shadeur Sanders and get Jerry Jones. Now, personally, I don't think Jerry Jones was ever all in on Dak Prescott. I know there's people out there who can say that. I don't think so. I never felt he was all in on Dak Prescott. I felt, okay, they drafted him. I think he was in the 4th round that year. Tony Romo gets hurt, because everybody was expecting the same thing. Tony Romo was going to take him to the promised land. He had 1 more, maybe 2 more good years left in him. Dak Prescott comes in. We did see Dez Bryant take a downfall because Dak couldn't hit the routes and couldn't hit Dez Bryant the way Tony Romo could. But, Dak played well, where he had no choice. He had no choice but to pay him. Well, he's having season-ending surgery, and the Cowboys are doomed. Now, personally, I would like to see them put Trey Lance in. Trey Lance, former top 3, if not number 1 overall, but I believe he was a top 3 draft pick. I would like to see the black quarterback get another chance. But I do think that if the Cowboys drafted Shadeur Sanders, I think he would be all in because I know Deion Sanders and Jerry Jones, they have a great bond. Deion obviously won a Super Bowl with the Cowboys in 95. So I think that would work. It would be very interesting to see. But then does Deion really want to leave college football? He's building something special in Colorado. They could, if they went out, they could be in the college football playoff. And I hope they do because he's been proving haters wrong as they sit at 7-2. But could you imagine Deion Sanders winning the Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys? Man. If it's after Lamar Jackson have his already or 2, I'm going to be rooting for that one. I'm just saying. But, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this edition of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Thank you for joining. Now, before we get out of here, let me give y'all some rundown real quick. Make sure you check out Vertical Athletics, 10% off if you use the code BWaters24. The link is in there. It might actually be Brian H. Waters. But yeah, you can save money there. You can save money on Opus Clip, right? If you're a content creator, make some quick social videos. You don't have to do the work. It will do the work for you. Just use the code in the bio. Also, make sure you check out my mom's book. Make sure you check it out. The Tears Behind My Smile. That's also link in the bio. Until then, folks, till the next time, I'm Brian H. Waters. And remember, do not let anyone place a ceiling above your success. So long. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support this podcast by wearing a t-shirt, whether it's the one that says breaking through glass ceilings or the one that says no ceilings above success, simply go to foryourwear.com. Also, you can support some of your other favorite podcasts and content creators, including Those Wrestling Girls, Seahawk, and the Wrestling Club. And you can support some of your favorite independent wrestlers, including Jay Bougie, Trisha Dora, Chaz the Don. Shoot, all the Pure Ignorance is on there. So go on foryourwear.com, go under personalities, you'll find Brian H. Waters, and buy a t-shirt. And remember, I'll give you a shout out on the show.